Hello, my name is Renega Graham and I run this YouTube channel where I like to talk about anything in the games industry which happens to catch my eye. This week, Sony are on my radar again as they announced that they would be getting more into mobile games through the purchase of a mobile developer, Savage Game Studios. Now, this has caused quite a bit of consternation, I think, in the industry, and I think a few people are maybe slightly off base with their views on what they think this purchase actually means for PlayStation going forward as far as it concerns their offerings on mobile. I think it's maybe actually slightly more positive news than people might think, so I thought it worth discussing. So before we get too far into it, let's first just cover off the news for anyone who might have missed it first time around. So the news was first relayed to us via a PlayStation blog post, but I am reading a rather helpful article from Video Games Chronicle here, who summarise it for us. VGC say as follows, quote, "In a post on the official PlayStation blog, PlayStation Studios head Herman Hulst welcomed German developer Savage Game Studios to the PlayStation Studios family, while also explaining mobile's up-and-coming role in expanding its community." VGC then go on to note that although Savage is a relatively new studio established in 2020, it was co-founded by veteran mobile developers Mikhail Katkov, who's formerly of Rovio and Zynga, Najim Ajir of Wargaming and Rovio, and Michael McManus of Wargaming and Insomniac. Hulst also seemingly attempted to preempt any negativity from players that would result from a mobile developer being added to the PlayStation Studios portfolio by saying, quote, "As we assured you before with our plans to bring select titles to PC, our efforts beyond console in no way diminish our commitment to the PlayStation community, nor our passion to keep making amazing single-player narrative-driven experiences." Hulst goes on to say our mobile gaming efforts will be similarly additive, providing more ways for more people to engage with our content and striving to reach new audiences unfamiliar with PlayStation and our games. Hulst concludes that Savage Game Studios is joining a newly created PlayStation Studios mobile division, which will operate independently from our console development and focus on innovative, on-the-go experiences based on new and existing PlayStation IP. So as I kind of hinted at earlier, this has got some people in a bit of a tizzy. I think the kind of general reaction that I've seen in some corners is one of kind of fear and outrage that PlayStation are just going to churn out a million sort of Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War, Candy Crush type clones that are just going to be sort of microtransaction riddled hellscapes to try and rinse everyone on the mobile market. However, based on that statement that I've just read and some other interviews that PlayStation have given previously, I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case. I think in my mind the key thing to look at here is the comparison that Herman Hulst makes to their acquisition of Savage and the sort of spinning up of their mobile games division to the acquisition of Nexus that they made a while back. So if you remember, Sony purchased Nexus, a developer who predominantly ports games to PC. So when Herman Hulst says, "As we assured you before with our plans to bring select titles to PC," what he's actually referring to here is the purchase of Nexus. And I think that comparison is quite key because I think Savage and this mobile games division are going to form a similar role to what Nexus do for PC. So the intention behind the Nexus purchase was so that Nexus could focus on porting Sony's first party console games to PC, which would free up the developers actually making the game, so your Naughty Dogs, your Insomniacs, so that they don't have to actually worry about taking care of the port. So it takes more off their plate and lets them focus on just making the game good rather than having to worry about making it work on several platforms. And I think that's what Savage's role is going to be here, to similarly take some of the load off of the main developers and focus on making these games work on mobile platforms. Now, by that, I don't mean that I expect to see, you know, the new up-and-coming God of War running on iPhones. I don't expect to see, you know, Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man Miles Morales or the new Wolverine game on mobiles. Not at all. I actually think there's a different and sort of more specific set of games that Savage are going to be working on porting over to mobile. What set of games am I talking about, you might ask? Well, to look at that in more detail, we need to go back to a business briefing that Jim Ryan gave back in May this year, May 2022. This again is relayed to us by Video Games Chronicle. During this briefing, Ryan confirmed that Sony were planning on releasing 2 new unannounced live service games by the end of the fiscal year. He also went on to say that they were planning on releasing 12 live service titles by the end of the fiscal year 2025, with them being sort of spread out over the preceding years. I think, with my speculative hat on, that it's going to be these games that Savage and this mobile division predominantly focus on getting running on mobile. There are a couple of reasons I think that. One, if we go back to the original article that we're reading from, that from Video Games Chronicle, that talks about the purchase of Savage, you will see at the bottom of it that Herman Hulst actually says that Savage are already working on a new unannounced mobile live service game. So based on this, clearly Savage's head is already in the live service space. They would presumably have already been recruiting staff with that type of experience and knowledge who want to work on that kind of game. So it makes sense for them to continue doing work in that space thereafter. More generally than that, I think if you look at other competitors in the live service space, some of the biggest games, one of the sort of main things they have going for them is that they are accessible anywhere. I'm talking about games like Genshin Impact, Fortnite you can play anywhere. There's even games like FIFA Ultimate Team, for example, where you can't actually play games of FIFA Ultimate Team on your phone, but you can still access the tradable marketplace on your phone, on the phone app, and on a web app on your PC as well. So whilst the full game is not accessible on mobile, there are still aspects of it that are meaningful aspects of it that allows the player to basically spend every free moment of their time that they have in this live service world. And I think with a live service game, that's ultimately what you have to shoot for. As insidious as it might sound, you are wanting to create a game that is the game that a whole fucking bunch of players play, and they play nothing else but that. That has to be your goal going into a live service game. Otherwise, what's the fucking point, really? So a big part of that is giving people access to their game, their account, the world, wherever they are, whether they're at home in their main gaming setup, or whether they're fucking on the bus to work, or they've got a 10-minute break that they can log in and do something quickly, whether they're sitting in the living room, with their partner watching something on the TV and they've got a second screen at hand, giving the player the ability to access the world, the game, in whatever scenario is huge. So I think for these upcoming live service games, we're going to see probably cross-progression, cross-play, maybe even with PC and mobile, with Nexus likely focusing on taking care of the PC ports, and then Savage or other parts of this mobile division taking care of getting some form of the game working on mobile. As I say, it might be something as simple as like auction house app type things, similar to what you see in FIFA Ultimate Team, but some form of mobile connectivity so that the players can play some aspect of the games wherever they are. And if nothing else, I think this acquisition's actually necessary for PlayStation if they don't want to get left behind. Because what a lot of people forget is that when Microsoft bought Activision, they didn't just buy Activision, and they didn't just buy Activision Blizzard. It was Activision Blizzard King being the massive mobile developer that are behind games like Candy Crush and all that sort of stuff. So considering how open Microsoft has been with PC Game Pass, you can bet your ass that they will be leveraging King to bring their games to mobile more easily. And they've already started down that route with their sort of mobile streaming and stuff that seems to work pretty well as far as I can establish. So you can bet that Microsoft will be doing everything they reasonably can to make sure that their games going forward are playable in as many places as they can, including mobile. So I think it is important for Sony to try and keep up in this space. So I think this is positive. I think this is positive news. I don't get a lot of the sort of hand-wringing at it. I think it's a smart move for Sony, and I think it's going to lead to PlayStation fans like me and us probably watching this, being able to play more of the games we like in more different scenarios, and I don't necessarily really see it taking anything away from us, so I don't really get why you would be pissed about it. And just as a final aside, this announcement might actually explain a bit of weird PlayStation sort of news that happened a while ago now. PlayStation did actually recently release a mobile game, and near the start of this year they released a Wipeout mobile game called Wipeout Rush, but it was all a bit strange. Many of you probably don't actually know that this game exists, and that's because PlayStation just kind of shat it out without giving it any press, without even really acknowledging its existence, although it was a PlayStation game, and it was just all a bit strange because why bother releasing this game if you're not going to actually put any effort behind it at all? But following this announcement, I am wondering if partway through the process of releasing Wipeout Rush, PlayStation's mobile strategy kind of changed, and suddenly Wipeout didn't really fit with that anymore, so PlayStation just wanted to shit it out and move on, basically. So I think this might actually explain that bit of weirdness that happened a while back, which I thought was interesting. Well, that's your lot for this video. Thank you for watching if you made it this far. What do you think about this news? Do you think it's good, bad, indifferent? Do you think I'm right, wrong? Please let me know in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe as always. You can find me on Twitter at RenegarGraham, on Instagram at RenegarGraham, on Twitch at twitch.tv/RenegarGraham. Yeah, all those places. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.